Did you come to Serbia as Sebastian Marokin or Juan Pablo Escobar?
Well, I actually gave my passport to the immigration authorities, and my passport says Juan Sebastian Marokin.
Juan Sebastian.
If I identify myself as Juan Pablo, I could be detained because Juan Pablo doesn't exist legally anymore. So it's like my fantasy name. It is now my original name. Well, it was absolutely necessary because we tried several, situations. We asked for the UN, the Red Cross, the Vatican. We knocked every door, every embassy in Colombia, and nobody would ever help us. So the only way out for us was to legally change our names. Of course, we had an agreement with our government to maintain everything, the process, secret. So, because there was no point to change legally your name, and then it was all out in the press. So that was the only option to escape from violence, to escape from our own destiny. It was, we just had like 10 minutes we wanted to preserve the Juan because if somebody could make a mistake during an immigration line or something, the name Juan would be, easy to remember. But I use Sebastian very often, so even my mom today calls me Sebastian, and she baptized me as Juan Pablo. But we had like the phone book. It was the year 1994. No internet, no nothing. So the phone book, we started looking for the last names, and we tried to find last names that weren't related with the drug trafficking business. And it took us until the letter M to find a couple, because a lot of people in the business.
What would your life be like if your father wasn't Pablo Escobar? Have you ever thought about that?
This is the life that I have because of my father's decisions in life, and also I'm having the life that I want because of my own decisions now. I don't, regret the fact of being the son of Pablo Escobar. That really gave me also a lot of knowledge, experiences, information, and also the strength to overcome mostly any situation. So I don't regret that. I just, think about the possibility of how could be my father's life if he would have the chance to educate himself, to go to university. And I question myself how could a government or a state like Colombia not paying enough attention to the kids who really want to study and to be better human beings. And that could have, really changed our present and our past.
Can you tell me, how do you interpret so much interest in the story of your father? What do you think attracts people?
Well, I don't know. I think that my father's name today is like a natural seller. It's like no matter what the news contains, as long as the word Pablo Escobar is there in the headline, there's a bunch of people willing to read, willing to discover. There's a lot of curiosity. And there's also, I don't know if the translation in English for this word is psychological term that is called let me
you can on Spanish.
Yeah. In Spanish it is, I'm trying to remember, is the attraction that people feels for power and criminals, but there's a name for that. I will remember and I'll tell you later. So I think that the combination of news and the attraction that people can feel about criminals, it's a great combination of how to attract people's attention. And my father, he became so famous. How can we explain to the people today that my father, he passed away 30 years ago, and today he produces more news than when he was alive? How come? This is not because of Pablo Escobar, this is because of the media and how they are using his name to keep the people's attention.
I understand. And what is that is not known about Pablo Escobar that you think people should hear?
Well, they should go to our event, so they will hear a lot of things that they should know. I don't publicly speak about all these things because I think there's a better atmosphere when we prepare an event for that and we introduce the story to the people. And it's not the same story that is in the books, it's a different story. Because my father is still today, I'm still discovering new things about him. I thought that I knew everything about my father, and it's not true. You know, when I read my mother's book, I was like shocked and surprised because of things that I read there. So it's like every day, every time when I met somebody from the past, it tells me better, worse, and more dangerous stories about my own father. So it's like a guy who you never stop, you know, discovering the things that he was involved in, and it's very difficult to say, yes, I do know everything about him.
And when did you first decide to reveal that Pablo Escobar is your father? Why did you decide to step out of the shadows?
Well, I didn't decide. It was the media who decided to publish our new identities and make this worldwide news. So it was like no other way we could hide. We were trying to live a low-profile life without without calling the attention of anyone. But suddenly we were just, our faces and new names were in CNN all over the world. So there was no point to keep hiding.
And at that age, were you able to understand what your father was doing? I read somewhere that Pablo himself told you.
Yeah, he told me when I was 7, he told me that he was a bandit and that was he was doing for a living. But you don't realize, when you're 7, you're just a little kid that thinks that your father perhaps rides a horse and he's stealing money from the banks. That's it. But it was worse than that. My father was running one of the biggest criminal organizations from the past century. So it was huge, his own power.
What did he tell you then?
That he was a bandit, and suddenly, of course, I started to see his face all over the news and news about him, but he didn't have any restrictions in terms of allowing me to see what it was on TV and saying, yes, I am responsible for that. So this is how I started to know my father's illegal activities, when he was, next to me watching the news, and he was saying, yes, I am responsible for that, or I am not,
Did you ever saw some drugs in your house or weapons or
Every day in my
that?
life. Every day in my life since I was a kid. I was very well educated thanks to my father's love, and totally aware of the consequences of abusing any substance and touching any gun. It was my everyday life.
Do the sins of your father following you today?
Well, I think there are less sins, but they're still there. Nothing grows under a big shadow, and I'm just moving as far as I can from that shadow to be myself. I don't want to be portrayed as the son of. I am more than that.
And have you ever feared for your life? Why do you think the cartel Hvala let you live?
That was a big bet from the cartel, because nobody was sure what I was going to do, what I was going to decide. I was very committed with peace, and I mean every word about that. But nobody could, not even I, could assure you that I was going to behave like I did, because of fear, because when you feel your life threatened, you don't know what to do. And yeah, it's a good thing to grab a white flag and just do it, but it is more complicated than that, because there was a lot of people trying to kill me. There was a $4 million bid on my head, so it was hard to speak about peace when everybody wanted you dead. But we made it. I don't know how. It's a miracle.
And how different did you and your sister live comparing to the other children? You had the zoo in your backyard.
Yeah, well, that only lasts like 5 minutes compared to a whole life. You know, we didn't enjoy that much because there was always somebody worried because the police were about to get into our house, or the enemies, or somebody was willing to kidnap us or killing us. So we couldn't enjoy what we own, and that's the message also from this story.
And have you ever seen your father cry?
Yes, only once in my life, when he was saying goodbye, the last time I saw him.
And how do you feel that then?
You know, he was supposed to be the strongest man in the family, and I was there to calm him and to make him feel like well, and we gave a hug, and that was the last time I saw him.
And how was your last call with your father? What did he tell you then?
Well, we were discussing about an interview from a very well-known magazine in Colombia. They were interested in knowing his opinion because the media was also playing a game with the authorities. They didn't want it to have my father saying what he thought about, the situation, the violence, the terrorist attacks, and all that, and why he escaped from prison. So it was like the first time he had to express himself. But he stayed on the phone more than he knew that it was safe for him. So this is why I believe that he actually was looking away so the authorities could find him, and he would be having his last fight with them, and that's why he killed himself.
And what was the last words?
I will call you back.
Is the Netflix TV show Narcos showing a realistic picture of your father?
No, not at all. It's just a glamorized version of my father, who's attracting a lot of teenagers to repeat his own story because they believe that, thanks to the Netflix show, that it is about a success case. And I think it's totally the opposite. But it depends how you show it and how you see it, which eyes you would like to open to see what they are telling about my father's. I wrote an article about the 28 mistakes of the second season. I didn't want to write an article about the first season because it'll take me a book to write all of them. But it became very famous, I think, because of the interest people have about my father's life. And they want to know the truth about Pablo Escobar. And the truth is something very hard to find about my father, because he was a very weird guy who was, it's like I'm the son, but I'm still every day discovering secrets about him.
And how do you live now?
Peacefully, I sleep well. I respect the law in every time, in every place I go. I enjoy, sharing my story with people. I enjoy seeing the teenagers' smiles when they realize that there's nothing good they could find in a criminal way of living. So I think I found a purpose for my life in terms of inspiring others in Latin America, perhaps all over the world, not to follow my fathers as an example, but to follow their own instincts and talents to have a better life for themselves.
Thank you very much for this.
Thank you.